Russia's aerial campaign upon Ukraine, including attacks on civilian infrastructure and residential homes, has been a feature of the war since February 24, 2022. However, in recent months, Russia has targeted an increasingly fine grid of Ukraine's energy infrastructure, including gas and electricity production and distribution facilities. That has many in Ukraine sounding the alarm on what may be the coldest and darkest winter of the war yet. We are in the city of Kharkiv, about 20 miles away from the Russian border. Kharkiv Oblast is facing persistent Russian attacks in the east and in the northeast. We sat down with Mr. Oleh Syniehubov, the governor of Kharkiv Oblast, to discuss how Kharkiv is preparing for the onset of winter.
What worries you the most these days? What is keeping you busy?
I can't name just one thing. There's a number of measures we work on constantly to keep the situation stable. This includes evacuation, assistance to the military, preparation for the heating season, and educational processes. So we are doing a lot, and it's hard to single out just one thing. Of course, when the energy system is attacked, we prioritize restoring the power supply so that our people can once again have heat and electricity in their homes.
How would you assess the endurance of the power and gas supply systems as of today, before winter?
If we are talking about readiness for the heating season, this is a rather complicated issue, because today we are 100% ready, but the situation could change any moment. The enemy is attacking our energy facilities, and another attack took place tonight. The consequences of this recent strike are still being eliminated. And of course, all our efforts are directed there now, and regarding what happens next, well, we would have to wait and see.
Well, directing all efforts there, what does that mean?
This means that when a strike occurs, we must eliminate the consequences immediately. All our services, units of the State Emergency Service, meaning rescuers, are engaged, as well as engineers, repair crews, and everyone else. We have to repair the damage as quickly as possible so people can get electricity back.
How do you assess the situation this year compared to a year ago, for example?
These are absolutely different challenges. 2022, its own challenges. Every night there were dozens of S-300 missile strikes launched at the city of Kharkiv at different types of facilities. And this year, we predict, will be the most difficult heating season. This is already clear. How come? The number of attacks. The number of attacks and the number of successful hits on critical infrastructure. We see this in Kyiv and other cities where electricity supply is currently limited. And the overall situation in the energy sector is quite difficult because, once again, the enemy is targeting energy facilities.
Regarding air defense, how well equipped is the air defense here? I was told that the military could give a more detailed answer.
I can't comment on the air defense. This is a rather sensitive topic. Let's put it this way. Every successful strike signals that we're lacking something, that there isn't enough air defense. And if we say that we shot down 10 or 100 Shahed drones and only one reached its target, it will still mean that there isn't enough. Or even any other drone, a small one, that would still mean that we're lacking air defense until we can, so to speak, guarantee close to 100% of security.
Well, by the way, a kindergarten came under attack yesterday. Thank God everyone was safe, and by the way, the rescuers responded very quickly.
They always respond very quickly, and this, I would say, is our strength. These are our heroes who, in a matter of minutes, arrive on the scene and immediately eliminate the consequences. Although yesterday the air raid alert was still on at the time, drones were still flying, as we observed, and unfortunately tonight a rescuer who dedicated 26 years of his life to the profession died near Kupiansk. And 5 of his colleagues were injured because the enemy, as you know, strikes with precision, including deliberately targeting state emergency service units that perform civilian roles. They simply save lives.
Do they deliberately aim at them?
Precisely and deliberately. They also target emergency medical care crews, meaning doctors and even evacuation columns, and once again, the units of the state emergency service.
Is this a trend?
This is not a trend, this is terror. This is not a trend, it is terror.
A strategy, right?
This is not a strategy. It's quite difficult to call terror a strategy. I don't know what to call it. It's just terrorist acts. It's just genocide of the Ukrainian people.
But I mean, this is something new, isn't it?
Look, this is not new. In 2022, when Kharkiv Oblast was being liberated, when there was a large-scale operation in the north and almost the entire territory of Kharkiv Oblast was liberated, there were evacuation columns. The enemy shot at an evacuation column from its armored vehicle, killing more than 20 children and a pregnant woman. Can this be called a strategy of some kind and so on? Come on. No, it's just a discussion. I really want you to understand what he's doing here. What he's doing here is not a strategy. This is simply the total destruction of the Ukrainian nation.
Today is very different. There used to be many attacks with glide bombs, especially in the spring of last year. It seems that you've resolved this issue, that Kharkiv has overcome this threat. Has anything changed in this regard or not?
Look, we can approach this in different ways. Every year our enemy does not stand still, it experiments. And indeed, at first we faced strikes with S-300 missiles. I mentioned it already, it was in 2022. This was the main challenge. S-300, Iskanders, aircraft, etc. Of course, our military worked on this and resolved this issue. And by the way, the decision of the United States of America to allow strikes on the Russian territory helped to deal with this. We began carrying out strikes, which forced the enemy to move their S-300 missile launchers farther back. Now they simply can't physically reach the city of Kharkiv. When the deoccupation took place, our enemy was forced to move artillery and multiple rocket launcher systems back, and now they simply can't reach the city of Kharkiv. So every decision made by the United States of America, even back then, has its consequences. But these decisions are almost always delayed by at least 6 months or even a year, and implemented long after the need for them has become urgent. Since our president said that we needed fighter jets for more effective combat, how much time had passed? Almost 2 years passed before the first F-16 aircraft were provided to our defense forces. When did we ask for foreign HIMARS, and when did they arrive, and when were we actually allowed to hit the Russian territory with them, and so on and so forth? Every decision must be made faster, because only Ukraine, only the highest military command, the president of Ukraine, knows what, how, and when is needed for Ukraine to continue demonstrating resilience on the battlefield.
And you, as the governor, what do you think Kharkiv needs the most right now?
Look, Kharkiv, like other cities, needs air defense. This is currently the biggest challenge, the biggest threat to the civilian population. We see that the enemy launches hundreds of drones, dozens of missiles, and our air defense capabilities are not enough. Air defense systems, missiles for them, and so on and so forth. There are wonderful American systems, I can name them or not, but they are wonderful. Yeah, we all know about them, we know their technical specifications. We need more missiles and we need more such systems, especially since we are not just asking to give them to us. Thanks to international support, well, that is the coalition of the willing, Ukraine is ready to buy them from the producers. American systems, as well as the European systems, have proven themselves very well. We just need many more of them. And, the question that I haven't answered was about glide bombs.
We are in Saltivka, on the northern side of Kharkiv city. You are hearing an air raid alert, which is the second in the past 10 minutes. We are currently in Kharkiv Oblast, which is under attack from Russia's east. Here in Saltivka, this was the line at which Ukraine stopped Russia from taking the city of Kharkiv back in 2022. Today, Russia's assaults continue, but Ukrainian defenses stand firm. However, story is being lost in the mix. If you would like to help us continue to tell Ukraine's story from on the ground, please consider becoming a member by joining us at the link in the description below.
So there were S-300 missiles. Then the enemy, after being pushed and forced to bring the S-300 farther back, being unable to reach our territories with them anymore, they invented a new tool, guided aerial bombs. And the enemy began to experiment. First there was FAB 250 type, then 500, then 1,500, meaning 1.5 tons. Then there were even 3 tons. They dropped those on Kupiansk and Vovchansk. It's like a mini atomic bomb, you could say, because the destructive force is quite powerful. And now they are experimenting further. There was an experiment with an attack on Lozova when a glide bomb with a jet engine was used, having flown a distance of more than 130 kilometers. This is an unprecedented distance for an aerial bomb. And these are new threats for us, but now I would say 90% of attacks are made with Shaheds, then missiles, including ballistic ones and everything else.
What is your reaction to this new threat?
Well, how can we react? Of course, we must cooperate with our military and seek solutions. Of course, the only way out is to strengthen air defense.
And the last question about air defense, first-person view drones, do they really reach Kharkiv or was it just a rumor?
Look, again, they were experimenting. The way they experiment is they use, well, it all falls under the category of an FPV drone, relatively speaking. They use Molnia, a fixed-wing drone. They attach an FPV drone on top of it in order to save its battery. However, there hasn't been a single successful launch like this yet.
How often do you manage to get to the so-called gray area from where people need to be evacuated?
Look, evacuation is underway every day. It doesn't stop. It's around the clock. We evacuate, for example, about 50 to 60 people every day from the Kupiansk area. I myself go there every week.
What recent memories, what moments come to your mind when you think about the situation there?
Well, once you go there, you might just never come back. This is the situation. No? However, our people are staying there and our military is staying there. And so, of course, coordination is very important on the ground.
Any specific memories?
I understand that you need emotions.
I'm sorry to ask about this.
I understand everything. It's very difficult when you've been at war for 4 years. So it's quite difficult to show any emotions. It was really difficult yesterday because it involved children. When, unfortunately, dead, unsafe children are pulled out from under the rubble, this is difficult. This is very difficult. You get used to pretty much everything else. However, of course, saving people and protecting our civilian population is our priority, and we have to work on this. Regarding Kupiansk, we communicated to people for 2 years that they needed to leave because the enemy was attacking the city. And now our military and evacuation groups have to risk their lives to evacuate the people who remained, who made the decision at the time not to leave Kupiansk. Well, of course, we still do it and will continue to do it. We will not abandon our people. However, we do understand that it should have been completely different.
Do you mean they had to react earlier?
Well, of course, you can understand people. They are asked to leave their homes, but still, their life and their health should still come first.
How would you assess the evacuation work so far? What else do you think is needed for evacuation?
Look, regarding evacuation, I will say this. Well, formally speaking, the highest authorities, that is the relevant ministries, evaluate the organization of evacuation in Kharkiv Oblast as one of the best in the country. So that's the first thing. This is something we've been doing since 2022. And of course, we made mistakes. We worked on them. We work with our international partners, with our volunteers. We currently have about 60 volunteer organizations involved in evacuation, among other things. And this is our success story, the fact that we were able to unite and organize everyone. And actually, our evacuation works like clockwork. The only thing is that this is a rather complicated process at the moment, especially when the evacuation is from an active combat zone.
What questions, what problems have not yet been resolved? What do you still need?
Look, there are a lot of problems. We're thinking about how to educate children. How can you teach kids when the air raid siren goes off every 15 minutes? So it's only possible in safe shelters. Only in safe underground schools. We need to continue to develop them. We have 200,000 school children, but currently only about 40,000 are provided with shelters. By the end of the year, we will have completed more than 30 underground schools, and there will be another 40,000 covered. That way, we will provide almost half of the children with underground shelters and schools, and we understand that this is our, let's say, not even the future. We must provide the opportunity to provide education under any conditions. The same applies to hospitals. We have to build underground hospitals. We now have unique projects that are being implemented that don't even exist in Europe. For example, we have a hospital that spans almost 15,000 square meters. It receives almost 260,000 patients per year. And we are now building an underground hospital like this. For what? Because we must ensure the provision of medical services under all circumstances, during attacks and everything else.
Забезпечити надання медичних послуг за будь-яких обставин під час обстрілів і все інше.
And how quickly can you dig and build an underground hospital? It takes several years to build a normal hospital, so I could only imagine an underground one.
Also takes several years.
Have you already started?
Yes, we have already started. Look, that's 15,000 meters. Several thousand patients will be able to stay there at the same time, together with all the medical staff. And this is not being built in just one hospital. We lived through 2022 when hospitals were attacked. And now they are being attacked in Kyiv and Kharkiv, but we still have to ensure the sustainability of medical care. For us, the authorities, this is a basic task. Education, medical care, etc.
It's interesting but scary at the same time that you need to adapt hospitals in such a way.
Look, it's not scary. These are the requirements today. We understand that our neighbor is not going anywhere, so we will simply understand that this is the future, and this is extra space. This is not just a hospital. Hospitals exist as they are, but there will be an additional possibility to provide services underground. There will be diagnostics and everything else. Everything is accounted for. For example, there will be a parking lot underground. Oxygen, electricity, and everything else is connected to each parking space. And if necessary, we can quickly and easily increase the number of beds for patients. Such measures were relevant even during COVID. The whole world has experienced this. However, in our case, this is a different reality.
Regarding the situation in Kupiansk, how serious of a threat is this Russian attempt to push further into Kharkiv Oblast?
Look, these advances have been happening since 2022, either in the north, near Vovchansk, or near Kupiansk. They haven't stopped for a day. They are constantly trying to advance deeper into our territory. Constantly. Every day we record from 150 to 200 or even more cases of combat engagement along the entire front line.
In your opinion, when do you see the end of the war?
It is very difficult. Look, each of us has to do everything in our power to ensure a stable situation. This is our role as local leaders. We need to ensure that the military is provided with everything they need, meaning whatever falls within the scope of our responsibility.
As someone from Kharkiv, what do you think is the essence, the unique spirit of the city?
Well, look, we already showed our spirit in 2022 when the enemy believed that Kharkiv was a purely pro-Russian city and tried to enter several times with sabotage and reconnaissance groups penetrating. However, the people of Kharkiv have shown indeed that this is a purely Ukrainian city, a pro-Ukrainian city. This is part of the Ukrainian territory and nothing can change that.